The hangar of forward operating base, Helios, thrummed with the low resonance of alien engines and human impatience. Sergeant Cole Mercer sat on a crate near the firing line, his hands moving with habitual precision as he cleaned the receiver of his M14 rifle. Around him, the clang of exosuits and the chatter of alien dialects blended into an uneasy symphony. The war against the Saith Dominion had forged a reluctant alliance between Earth and the greater Galactic coalition, but some partnerships were built on mockery more than respect. Across the room, a cluster of alien officers watched Mercer like he was a relic from a forgotten age. Their armor gleamed under sterile lights, powered by processors that could predict bullet trajectories faster than any human mind could blink. One of them, a tall Threx with translucent plates along its skull, gestured toward Mercer's rifle. "Primitive," it said through a translator's hum. "Outdated kinetics. Your species still uses metal slugs in an age of plasma." Mercer looked up, expression unreadable. "Metal slugs get the job done," he said, sliding the bolt forward with a satisfying click. The aliens chuckled, their laughter sharp and metallic. Another officer, a Saith with silver skin that caught every glint of light, folded its arms. "Do you intend to fight the Dominion with antique craftsmanship? Perhaps you will throw rocks when the ammunition runs dry." Their derision didn't sting. He'd heard all before. Mercer had spent most of his career being underestimated by enemies, allies, even command. He took it as fuel. He wasn't the strongest or fastest Marine, but he understood his tools, and he trusted the quiet logic of things that didn't fail. Machines could lie. Metal didn't. Lieutenant Hayes approached from the other side of the hangar, datapad in hand and tension in her jaw. "Mercer," she called, ignoring the alien snickers. "You're shipping out in 2 hours. Recon on Ridge 17. We're short on eyes and long on targets." He nodded. "Copy that." The Threx officer tilted its head, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Will the human sniper bring his wire?" That made Hayes pause. "Wire?" Mercer didn't look up. "Scope mount's loose. Can't recalibrate it here without a vice grip, so I rigged it with steel wire." The Seth's silver lips curved into what might have been amusement. "You use scrap metal to aim your weapon?" 75 cents worth, Mercer said. He stood, slinging the rifle over his shoulder. "Worth every penny." The laughter followed him out of the hangar, echoing off the durasteel walls. Hayes walked beside him toward the transport bay, shaking her head. "You really don't help your reputation, you know that? Never been good at public relations," he said. "They think you're stubborn." "They're right." She smirked. "You think you can make that wire trick work on a live op?" "I don't think," Mercer said, pausing at the transport's open ramp. "I know." The flight to Ridge 17 was short, rough, and eerily quiet. The planet below, a humid world draped in green mist, was a nightmare for tech. High electromagnetic interference scrambled sensors, making most advanced targeting useless. The aliens hated it. Their systems couldn't adapt fast enough. But humans, with their imperfect instincts and analog tools, had found opportunity in the chaos. Mercer stared out the dropship window as the jungle blurred beneath. Ramirez, his spotter, sat opposite him, checking their gear. "You really wired that thing together?" "Still zeroed," Mercer replied. "Give or take a millimeter." Ramirez whistled low. "You're a damn artist, Sarge. Remind me not to piss you off." Mercer grinned faintly. "Just don't touch my rifle and you'll live forever." When the dropship touched down, the world hit them with heat and silence. No bird calls, no breeze, just the thick, static-charged air of a planet that resented all intrusion. They moved through the undergrowth, each step measured, boots sinking into damp soil. Above them, the distant hum of Saith drones cut through the canopy like an electric storm. By nightfall, they reached the observation point. Ridge 17 loomed ahead, a jagged line of alien fortifications pulsing with faint blue light. Through binoculars, Mercer could see the enemy emplacements, turrets, relay nodes, and shield arrays designed by species that thought mathematics could conquer nature. He adjusted his scope carefully, the wire holding fast. "Command says we've got 2,000 Marines pinned down on the south flank," Ramirez whispered, scanning with the spotter scope. They can't move till those ridge guns are gone. Mercer said nothing for a long time. He just studied the pattern of light on the fortifications, the way energy shields shimmered against the humid air. Every pulse had rhythm. Every defense had a flaw. He'd find it. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but certain. If I take out the control nodes, those guns go blind. Ramirez turned, eyes wide. At this range? That's over 1,500 meters through distortion fields. You sure? Sure enough. He lay prone, pressing his cheek to the rifle stock, breathing in the damp earth. The scope flickered faintly, the alien interference creeping into the optics, but the wire held its shape. He thought of the laughter back in the hangar, the Threx's sharp tone, the Seth's mocking grin. Let them laugh. The wind shifted. He adjusted half a degree, compensating for drift. The rifle felt like an extension of his heartbeat, steady, deliberate, inevitable. Ramirez whispered, "You think the alien brass are watching the feed?" Mercer exhaled, slow and steady. "Hope they are." The first shot cracked through the night, a small, sharp sound swallowed by jungle. It crossed the distance in silence, unseen, unstoppable. A moment later, a bright flare erupted from the ridge, one of the control nodes obliterated. The other two followed, each shot timed between gusts of wind and flickers of distortion. Ramirez grinned, voice trembling. "That's 3 for 3. Mercer didn't smile. He just chambered another round. "We're not done yet." He adjusted his aim toward the highest ridge gun, its plasma coils spooling up. Sweat trickled down his temple, but his hands were steady. Behind him, Ramirez whispered coordinates, wind speed, trajectory. Every number fit into place. He fired again. The gun exploded in a flash of white fire, the shockwave rolling across the valley. From the comlink came the voice of Lieutenant Hayes, sharp with disbelief and pride. "Mercer, you just gave 2,000 Marines their lives back. Command's calling it a miracle." He lowered the rifle slowly, the echo of the shot still hanging in the heavy air. "No miracle, ma'am," he said quietly. "Just 75 cents of wire and a little faith." The jungle pressed close around them, thick with the scent of damp soil and alien flora. Cole Mercer lay belly down in the moss, his uniform streaked with mud and sweat, the barrel of his rifle aligned with a narrow gap in the foliage. Overhead, the twin suns filtered through layers of mist, turning every droplet into a prism. The air shimmered faintly with the electromagnetic interference that crippled the aliens' fancy targeting systems. To Mercer, it felt like home, a place where human instinct still meant more than circuitry. Beside him, Ramirez crawled forward on elbows, setting up the spotting scope. The younger Marine's voice was hushed but steady. "Range to ridge, 1,562 meters. Wind variable, cross-gusting right to left. Copy." Mercer's eyes never left the ridge. The Seth fortifications rose from the green horizon like jagged teeth, turrets, sensor domes, and the faint silhouettes of enemy sentries moving with mechanical precision. Every few seconds, a burst of blue plasma lanced into the canopy, searching for intruders. They were methodical, confident, certain no human could hit them from this distance without orbital support. Ramirez shifted slightly, his visor reflecting the faint orange glow of their target markers. "Aliens watching from orbit are going to love this," he muttered. "Good," Mercer said. "They'll get a show." He exhaled slowly, feeling his pulse settle. The M14 rested perfectly against his shoulder, the wire around the scope mount catching the dim light. He remembered the derisive looks from the Threx and Kvar officers, how they'd laughed at the idea of using wire to hold precision optics. He smiled faintly. If they could see him now, they'd understand what patience looked like. The comlink crackled softly in his ear. Lieutenant Hayes's voice filtered through, thin from distance. "Mercer, command confirms orbital view. You are green to engage at discretion. Try not to make us a spectacle. No promises, sir." He adjusted the elevation knob by feel, then leaned closer to the scope. Through the magnified lens, the world shrank into focus. Wind-whipped banners, heat haze, and the glint of a Saith officer's armor at the ridge's edge. The alien's movement was smooth, almost graceful, utterly confident in its supposed invulnerability. Ramirez checked his pad. They've got anti-ballistic drones patrolling at 200-meter altitude. Time your shot between sweeps. Mercer nodded. Mark it. A brief silence stretched between them. No birds, no insects, just the low hum of alien machinery. Then Ramirez's voice, calm and precise. Window in 5 seconds. Mercer inhaled through his nose. The world narrowed to his breathing and the faint tension in the wire. He imagined every molecule between him and the target, every variable waiting to betray him. Then the pattern clicked, and he squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked gently against his shoulder, the sound swallowed by the jungle. The bullet traced its invisible arc across 1,500 meters of dense air and interference, slipping through a shimmer of cloaking field. Half a second later, the Saith officer's head snapped back in a spray of blue light. Silence followed, an unnatural, suspended moment when the entire ridge seemed to forget to breathe. Ramirez broke it with a low whistle. It confirmed. Holy hell. Cole, you threaded that through a distortion field. Gravity's the same everywhere, Mercer said, already chambering the next round. Doesn't care whose flag you serve. The ridge erupted with movement. Searchlights flared, turrets whined into motion, and the jungle came alive with return fire. Plasma bursts scorched the treetops, showering them with ash and sap. Ramirez ducked instinctively, but Mercer stayed steady, adjusting 2 clicks down. Next target, secondary turret, Ramirez called. 1,600 even. Crosswinds heavier. Mercer compensated by twisting the wire a fraction tighter, bending the scope's alignment just enough to counter drift. Another shot cracked. The turret exploded, scattering molten shards across the ridge. The orbital feed must have caught everything because Hayes' voice came through again, more reverent this time. Valor's edge confirms multiple hits. Alien officers are speechless. Mercer allowed himself a grin. Guess they got their spectacle. The firefight intensified. Saith troopers poured out of bunkers, spraying energy fire wildly. The Marine supporting line advanced through the jungle, emboldened by the precise destruction of the ridge's defenses. Every time the aliens recalibrated, Mercer adjusted faster, tiny manual corrections that no computer could replicate. Sweat rolled down his temple, mixing with grit, but his breathing stayed even. The M14 bucked again and again, its rhythm a heartbeat echoing through chaos. Ramirez glanced at him between volleys. You're not even flinching, man. You're loving this. Not love, Mercer said. Focus. He took another shot, watching the last active turret bloom into fire. The ridge fell silent except for the crackle of burning metal. Turrets neutralized, Ramirez confirmed. Command says Marines are moving in. You just clear the approach. Mercer lowered the rifle slightly, scanning the smoke-choked slope. He could see the glint of human armor advancing through the haze. Tiny figures climbing towards safety bought by one well-placed wire and a steady hand. From the comlink came a new voice, crystalline and strained, the Threx commander. Human Mercer, your weapon's range exceeds projections by 12%. Explain this anomaly. Mercer wiped a smear of grime from his cheek. No anomaly, he said. Just math and patience. Static hissed in response, then the line went dead. Ramirez laughed quietly. You just broke their computer's pride. About time someone did, Mercer said. He lay back against the ground, muscles trembling as the adrenaline faded. The jungle's hum returned, gentle and almost forgiving now that the ridge guns were gone. Above them, faint contrails marked descending dropships, reinforcements moving into the newly cleared zone. Think they'll admit they were wrong? Ramirez asked. Maybe not out loud, Mercer replied, but they'll remember. He reached up and loosened the wire from the scope mount, inspecting it. Despite the recoil and heat, it hadn't shifted a millimeter. A 75-cent fix had rewritten a battlefield. Ramirez's voice softened. How do you keep calm doing this, knowing the whole damn galaxy's watching? Mercer considered before answering. You stop thinking about who's watching. You focus on a shot. And when it counts, you trust the things that got you here. He tucked the wire back into his pocket, a habit as old as his first deployment. The ridge still smoked, a monument to every laugh and doubt he'd endured. Somewhere in orbit, a room full of alien officers stared at the feed, struggling to reconcile what they'd seen with what they believed. "Command wants extraction in 15, Ramirez said. Mercer nodded, watching the heat shimmer rise from the ruined ridge. "Let them finish securing it. I want one last look." The twins' suns began to dip, casting long gold shadows across the jungle floor. He raised a rifle again, scanning through the haze, not for enemies now, but for proof of peace earned. Below, Marines signaled their success. Above, distant comm traffic buzzed with stunned reports. Mercer exhaled, a long, slow breath that steadied his heartbeat. He'd given them the show they wanted, and a lesson they wouldn't forget. The debrief chamber was sterile and silent, its walls lined with pale metal that seemed to hum faintly under hidden machinery. Cole Mercer sat at the long table's end, boots dusty, rifle propped against the wall like an old friend waiting to be called back. Across from him stood 3 alien officers, Threx, Kvar, and Seth, all clad in their respective command colors. Their eyes, too many and too sharp, reflected the recording still looping in the room's central hollow display. Frame by frame, it showed Mercer's bullet leaving the M14's barrel, slicing through air, distortion, and arrogance alike. The Threx officer clicked his mandibles together, breaking the silence. "Human Mercer, our projections calculated a 99.2% probability of shot deviation. Your result contradicts that calculation." Mercer didn't look up. "Guess your math's missing something." The Kvar commander's voice was lower, more measured. "Something like what? Primitive superstition? Luck? Or human exaggeration?" He almost smiled at that. "None of the above. Just understanding the limits of your models and stepping past them." The Seth representative, sleek and silver-skinned, folded her 4 arms. "We mock your methods because they lack sophistication. And yet, you achieved what our technology could not." She leaned forward. "Explain." Mercer exhaled through his nose, remembering the hours spent under alien scrutiny, their constant disbelief that humanity's weapons could hold their own without computer aid. "You all think perfection comes from the system. Precision through elimination of error. We think it comes from learning how to work with it. You calibrate until the chaos disappears. We calibrate until we understand it." For a moment, the chamber was quiet again. The aliens exchanged looks, 1,000 years of theoretical supremacy struggling to digest the idea that imperfection could be strength. Hayes entered from the side door, saluting curtly before addressing the officers. "Gentlemen, lady, Earth Command has already received orbital reports. 2,000 Marines alive because of Mercer's action. That's 2,000 more reasons you might want to pay attention." The Threx bristled. "We will analyze the engagement data independently. There may be hidden factors." "Sure," Mercer said evenly. "Maybe gravity bent the rules for me." Hayes shot him a look that balanced warning with pride. "At ease, Sergeant. Let them wrestle with it." The meeting dissolved into clipped words and frustrated murmurs. When the aliens filed out, their holographic screens still flickering with slow-motion trajectories, Hayes waited until the door sealed shut. "You made friends in high places, Mercer. And a few enemies, too." Mercer stretched his shoulders, the fatigue settling in now that the adrenaline was gone. "Nothing new there, sir." Hayes leaned against the wall, studying him. "Command wants to send you back up there. Training detachment for joint marksmanship drills. They think your wire trick might be worth formal study." Mercer raised an eyebrow. "Teaching aliens how to twist a bit of metal? Teaching them humility might be closer," Hayes said. His tone softened. "You okay with that?" Mercer's gaze drifted to the rifle. The M14 wasn't just a weapon. It was an extension of stubbornness, a relic of Earth's long belief that ingenuity could outlast arrogance. "Yeah," he said finally. "If they're willing to learn, I'll teach." The days that followed were a blur of preparation and instruction. On the orbital range deck, rows of trainees, human and alien alike, stood behind lines of rifles and plasma casters. The aliens handled the ballistic weapons awkwardly, their hands too used as stabilizers and guided systems. Mercer moved among them, correcting stances, explaining airflow, breathing, and patience. He watched them struggle to grasp the idea that intuition mattered as much as input. One Saith cadet, a young officer whose armor still gleamed from polish, asked in disbelief, "Why not let the rifle's core compute the correction?" "Because then you don't learn what correction feels like," Mercer said. "The point isn't just to hit. It's to know why you did." Their skepticism melted slowly into curiosity. By the end of the third day, the same cadet hit a moving target across half a kilometer. The shot wasn't perfect, but it was earned. Mercer nodded approvingly. "See? Not bad for someone who thought we were primitives." The cadet's crest flared in acknowledgement. Perhaps the galaxy has been measuring the wrong things. The training expanded, word spreading through the fleet. Soldiers from dozens of worlds came to watch, not for spectacle now, but to understand the philosophy behind the impossible shot. Mercer became a quiet legend, a reminder that innovation wasn't born from perfection, but defiance. Yet the galaxy was not done testing him. A week later, news came of another front, an outpost under siege by a splinter faction of Saith rebels. Their technology was identical, their arrogance untouched by defeat. The Joint Command asked Mercer to lead a precision team to assist the defense. As the dropship prepared to depart, Ramirez joined him at the ramp, grinning. "Guess the legends travel fast." "Yeah," Mercer said, checking the wire once more. "Let's make sure they live up to it." They deployed at dusk, the alien sky painted with violent streaks of red. The outpost burned in the distance, its defense grids flickering under constant bombardment. Mercer lay prone again, scope aligned, feeling that old calm settle over him. Ramirez manned the spotter scope, murmuring wind speeds and distance. When the rebels' lead skimmer appeared over the ridge, Mercer breathed, fired, and watched the vehicle collapse into flame before its targeting array could lock. The Marines cheered below, the allied aliens stunned into reverent silence. One by one, each enemy fell, methodically, precisely, until the ridge lay quiet again. Later, as the fires dimmed and the night wind cooled, Ramirez handed him a compad. "They're calling this the 75-cent miracle. It's trending on every relay." Mercer chuckled softly. "Miracle's a strong word." He gazed at the wire coiled on his scope mount, tarnished from use, but unbroken. "All I did was show them what little wire and a lot of stubbornness can do." He stood, slinging the rifle across his back as dawn bled into the horizon. Around him, Marines and alien soldiers shared quiet nods, respect that needed no translation. Ramirez looked up at the sunrise. "Think they'll stop mocking Earth now?" Mercer smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I hope they don't." "Why's that?" "Because doubt's the best motivator we've got." He tightened the sling and started walking toward the waiting transport. Behind him, the ridge smoldered in the new light, a monument not to superiority, but to perseverance. And somewhere, in the deep hum of the fleet's communication grid, alien officers watched the replay once more, silent this time, not in disbelief, but in understanding that humanity had once again reminded the galaxy why they survived where others faltered.